Welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Barjo.
Barjo, what a ridiculously epic tsunami of games we've had over the past few weeks. Do you think we've hit our peak for 2011?
Oh, maybe, Hex, but we have so many games to go. There's Saints Row 3, Skyrim, we've got Lord of the Rings War on the North, Skyward Sword, and Minecraft. But if we are at the peak, I think it's a wide peak, so it's more like a plateau of awesomeness.
Well, nice analogy. This week, however, we give a very warm welcome to Nathan Drake in Uncharted 3: Drake's Deception.
We've been trying to reach you for over 24 hours.
Oh, right, I need to top up my minutes.
You're using a prepaid phone?
Mate, those contracts are a complete rip-off.
And we take to the field of battle in Battlefield 3. Jets. Oh, did we just hit each other?
And have you ever heard of a game designer named Bill Williams? Well, if you haven't, then stick around for Goose to enlighten you later on in the show.
But first, can you guess the game for this week?
All right, Barjo, the sooner you go read the news, the sooner we can talk about Battlefield and Uncharted.
Ah!
Good game.
A pilot study conducted by the University of California School of Nursing and Red Hill Studios has shown that playing video games might help fight symptoms of Parkinson's disease. 20 people suffering from Parkinson's played custom-built games, similar to many Wii and Kinect minigames, which award points for matching specific movements. The results showed that over half of the participants improved their balance, walking speed, and stride length. A larger, long-term clinical trial will hopefully confirm these results. Two giants in the field of programming and computing have sadly passed away. John McCarthy, aged 84, was the creator of the Lisp programming language used in early AI programming, and had been a leading researcher in the field of AI since the mid-50s. Dennis Ritchie, who has died at the age of 70 following battles with cancer and heart disease, was the creator of the widely used C programming language, and the co-creator of the Unix operating system. Bethesda Softworks has denied rumours that development on Doom 4 has been indefinitely postponed due to mixed reviews of Rage and a serious lack of confidence in id Software's project management.
Hold up there, stranger. You got business here.
Bethesda's Pete Hines has called the claims, which purportedly leaked from a company-wide meeting, complete bollocks. The Australian games industry has been dealt further blows in the last few weeks, with both the closure of KMM Brisbane, responsible for the Hattie Feet 2 game, and staff cuts at the Australian arm of XCOM developer 2K Marin, formerly 2K Canberra, with 15 employees rumoured to have lost their jobs. This continues a grim run for the local industry this year after several other studio closures.
Good game.
Nathan Drake, is there anything he can't do? Once again, he's hunting down treasure, being double-crossed by bad guys, performing a number of ridiculous stunts, and of course, cheating death at every turn. But without all that, it wouldn't be Uncharted 3.
In Uncharted 3: Drake's Deception, Drake is joined once again by his mentor Sully, as they search for the lost city known as Iram of the Pillars and the riches that are hiding there. And you guessed it, there are bad guys looking for it too. Drake has one half of the key, the enemy has the other. It's all very typical treasure hunting, Indiana Jones type of action-adventure stuff. It's all very cliche, but that's why we love it.
Drop your weapons.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yes, it truly is the Michael Bay of games, isn't it? I mean, Nate can't take two steps without something exploding. It's like a rule the game lives by. Every ledge will break and leave you inches from falling to your death, every building collapses or burns, every boat sinks, and when Nate gets on a plane, you just know that thing's going down with you in it. He even shoots a rocket launcher while riding a horse.
He's a walking disaster zone, isn't he? It just follows him wherever he goes.
Yeah, but it is all genuinely suspenseful stuff, isn't it? I mean, this is the kind of game I play while yelling, "Oh God, what is happening?" But it does get a bit predictable at times.
Yeah, sometimes some of that surprise is removed when you see a ledge and you go, okay, that ledge is gonna crumble. It's this crumble fight formula that repeats itself. But it's still really good. Gameplay primarily consists of shootouts, climbing, brawling, and puzzle solving with the help of Nate's trusty journal. But all of this has been improved and updated since the last game, especially the hand-to-hand combat, which was always a little dicey in Uncharted 2. Here it's quite fluid and requires precise timing, and even incorporates objects in the environment.
Yeah, and it just feels like good manly brawling, doesn't it? Punches land with a weighty thud, and Drake has some great finishes where he grabs a pin from a guy's grenade, then kicks him away, and then watches him explode. Or
he just kicks them like a football.
As always in Uncharted, enemies take a lot of bullets to go down. Later on in the game, when every enemy you face nearly will be armored, it gets a bit ridiculous. There's a pretty good variety of guns at your disposal though. And grenades are plenty, with a nice arc to follow for precise placement of the blast. And it's great that you can throw grenades back too. I always get really frustrated when games don't let you do this.
No, oh, no.
And I love the reactions from the enemy.
And the cover is just brilliant, isn't it? It never looks blindingly obvious, and it always blends into the environment around you. And they're such varied and beautiful environments too.
I thought Nate's movement was really great as well. It's not entirely fluid as he runs, jumps and climbs, but he's not a free runner or a parkour expert, he's just a guy. So, he trips, stumbles and rolls if he loses his footing, but he has a quick recovery and, it just never feels clunky or awkward.
I love the way that this game involves you in every single part of the action, every aspect of it. This really is an interactive action film where every moment is controlled in some way by quick time events that see you guiding Nathan every step of the way. But you never feel like control is taken away from you, or that you're pressing a button just for the sake of it. And that's quite an achievement, and that's often where these kind of games fall down.
I completely agree. And what's more is they've actually used a lot of these to mask loading and create dramatic tension within them. One example is when you're guiding Drake through one of those narrow crevices, but one of the characters in your party is claustrophobic, and it created this moment of intense drama, and I was completely involved. But then I was like, wait a minute, are you loading the next level? Very clever game.
Yeah, it's seamless design, isn't it? And Drake's journey is just beautifully executed. We don't want to touch on the story at all, we want to leave that for you to discover, but the characters from previous games return to help Drake on his quest, and you are fully invested in his journey that eventually sees him lost, alone, and desperate. But you're with him every step of the way, willing him to pull through.
Interaction between the characters in the game is beautifully human also, which is partly due to some superb animation, particularly in the eyes, which normally lets things down, and partly due to Nolan North's expert voice acting, which really brings the character of Drake to life. And Nolan has done a lot of voice acting for games, from Desmond from Assassin's Creed to Jason in Shadow Complex, but I'll always associate him with Nathan Drake. I mean, to me, Nolan is Nathan, and all of his witty lines and clever dialogue just really brings a unique quality to the character.
How are we going to get across 600 miles of impassable wasteland?
It's in the middle of the desert. So technically, it'd be about 300 miles.
Not to mention, everything Nathan Drake does is underscored by this wonderful action-adventure score, which is perfect for those hero shots, of which there are many. It's hard to fault this game. It's such an exciting ride from start to finish. There are a few chapters in the middle where you're messing around on a bunch of boats for 3 or 4 chapters, and there's a lot of gunplay there, and the pace of the game really slows down. Sniper lasers are forever finding their way to your head as you try and take out goon after heavily armored goon.
And stay down. Please.
But once you get through it, the action picks right back up again, and I feel like those sections were there to make me earn the action sequence that followed.
And it all looks spectacular, doesn't it? I mean, Uncharted 2 is beautiful, but 3 will just blow you away with stunning sceneries and incredible detail. One thing I love about this franchise is that the path through the environment is never completely obvious. Ledges don't glint or glow. The design choices that signal areas you can climb are all wonderfully subtle, and there are often multiple paths you can choose anyway, so it never feels too linear. But let's talk about the multiplayer.
Yes, now our code was offline, so we couldn't test out the final multiplayer game, but we were on the beta a few months ago. Hex, I very much liked the level design. I thought there were lots of little choke points and areas where you could snipe from, and all those turrets were so overpowered.
Yeah, and the combat is so fluid too, isn't it? And there's an interesting buddy system in there, but that's really all we could test out. Final thoughts?
It's wonderful watching the series evolve. Naughty Dog have taken everything about action-adventure that we love and just put it in this game, and they're so good at their storytelling and cinematography. It's on par with film, and they get that action so right too, so I'm giving it 9 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I think this has been one of my favourite games of the year so far. I was so excited for it and I wasn't disappointed. Nathan Drake is just one of my favourite characters to play, and in Uncharted 3 I got to go on a journey with him that was both moving and thrilling, so I'm giving it 9.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Hey, Sully.
How you doing, sweetheart?
Oh, no. Sorry, that's sort of frowned upon here.
Oh, right.
You two can hold hands, though. Oh, and I shouldn't be worried about what's in those bags, right?
Of course not. No.
Yeah. Not yet, anyway.
Top Gun for the SNES, as we called it in the old days, the Nintendo Entertainment System, 1987, and I must have spent 100 hours trying to land my FA-14 Hornet on that aircraft carrier deck. And if I didn't play 200 hours of that thing, I don't know what I did. I'm sure it was at least 150 to 200 hours playing Top Gun. And today's gamer would look at that and go, what? But great game, very addictive, and I just loved the challenge of bringing in the FA-14.
He may not have been a household name like Will Wright or Gabe Newell, but Bill Williams deserves a place in the Game Designer Hall of Fame. Bill Williams was easily one of the greatest game designers who ever lived because he was acutely aware that he was going to die. Williams suffered from cystic fibrosis and spent most of his life in chronic pain. He knew his time was short, so he made his every action count. Innovation was his hallmark. In his 1982 hit Necromancer, your actions in one level would have cascading consequences in the next. Fail to plant enough trees in stage 1, and you'd be unable to crush the spider larvae in stage 2. His next hit was Alley Cat, a platformer that pit gamers against a string of surreal challenges. Again, entropy was a dominant theme. Progress brought on more aggressive guard dogs, fewer trash cans to jump on, and fiercer competition for the love of lady cats. You could struggle, you could endure, but you couldn't live forever. Pioneer Plague on the Amiga was a technical feat. It was the first game to use the hold and modify graphics mode to display a whopping 4,096 colours. Time was not on your side. Dawdling would allow a horde of self-replicating robots to turn the galaxy into a lifeless urban wasteland. Not content to craft masterworks like Mindwalker and Knights of the Crystallion, he also created music for cinemaware games such as the late 80s gem Defender of the Crown. When in control of his own projects, Williams' work soared to ever greater heights, but his winning streak was undone by corporate meddling. In 1992, the production of The Simpsons, Bart's Nightmare, was mired by executive interference. Quality suffered, and Williams dubbed the project Bill's Nightmare. He spent his last days studying to become a Lutheran pastor and writing his moving book, Naked Before God, the tale of a lost disciple who, like Williams, had his life curtailed by crippling illness. Bill Williams died in 1998. He was just 38 years old. If he had lived into the 21st century, he could have led the renaissance in indie gaming, a technological revolution that has seen auteurs flourish, Jonathan Mack, Marcus Persson, and so many others. But his life was not in vain. Bill Williams made every second count, and we are all the richer for it.
Battlefield 3 takes intelligent inspiration from every modern FPS out there, from Call of Duty to Crysis, and it combines that with everything that developer DICE have learnt with their own games over the years to create what is, in my opinion, the pinnacle, the highest point of where FPS is today.
Where to begin, Barjo? We should start by saying that we reviewed this on PC, and this is a game that is first and foremost designed for the PC, which is a rare and wonderful thing these days. I mean, make no mistake, this is better on PC in almost every way. Because on console, not only do you take a graphical hit, but you also can't play the 64-player conquest maps. The maximum of any mode on console is 24 players, which is a shame because a 64-player Battlefield is quite a sight.
We got out low. Oh, Dan didn't get out.
But DICE have said that this player count compromise is there so they can keep all the vehicles and the map sizes in the game, and that's a small price to pay for action this good. It is quite scalable on PC, but you will want a decent rig to run this, because you just want to make it look good. But let's start with the multiplayer hex, because that's where the real focus is here. Firstly, the vehicles, of which there are many. Jeeps and tanks and choppers and boats, and of course, jets.
vehicles will actually regen health, but take too much damage and you'll find yourself disabled.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere.
Limiting movement and control. This adds an element of stress where you need to decide if you want to persevere and repair manually or just ditch your vehicle and leg it. If you're in a jet though, ditching is pretty much your only option.
Charge has been set.
Have I mentioned how much I love jets?
Alright.
Better hurry though, 13 kills left. Oh shit. There's intense dogfighting and times where you need to support your troops on the ground. They handle well, but it's good to keep a game pan handy to switch to. It just adds a whole nother layer of coolness to the battlefield, seeing jets fly about above you. It's so spectacular. The only downside is the ceiling is too low on all the maps for the jets, so if you fly too high, you get stuck in this weird store where you feel like you're stuck in a sponge and it just takes ages to get out of it.
Yeah, it's possible that that's there just to keep you in the action, or maybe it's a resource thing, I don't know, but it drove me a bit nuts as well. You're right about having a controller handy though, Badge. I especially liked it for flying the helicopter. It's just a little bit more intuitive than using a keyboard and a mouse.
Yeah, me too. I like how all the turrets on most of the vehicles now are independent of where the vehicle is going, so they move on their own axis, which means you won't lose your line of sight with an enemy if the car turns. It's not very realistic, but it's less messy and better for gameplay.
Battlefield 3 comes with 9 giant maps of destruction that are just littered with hidey holes, choke points, and glorious vistas. There's also a DLC pack which we couldn't get access to, which has 4 extra maps from Battlefield 2, including the excellent Wake Island. It's great to know that that's back.
You've probably seen footage of Caspian Border, but I just love those tight streets of Grand Bazaar. So many tactics to try and get through those little areas. I thought there would be more tactical destruction in these smaller maps. It doesn't seem like there's as much as there was in Bad Company 2, but perhaps more will reveal itself in time. In the bigger maps, however, you can blow up just about anything you like, and I did like blowing things up.
For a war game, it's just beautiful too, isn't it? Especially the night setting of Tehran Highway, which is particularly thrilling as you bumble down the hills as rockets and bullets fly by your head. Along with squad deathmatch, Battlefield 3 includes team deathmatch, so you can get your fix of fast-paced, score-building action, and this will cater to both COD and Battlefield fans alike, which is quite an achievement and a bit of a savvy move, I think.
It's nice to have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Charge has been set.
But when it comes to Battlefield, Rush is where I like to live. Hex, there's just so much strategy there and taking those points and holding them and then pushing forward. Plus, in one of the maps, you get to base jump in between points. Gold.
I could base jump forever and be happy, Barjo. But what did you think of the unlock system?
I love it. The more you use a class, a weapon, or a vehicle, it will unlock more specific gadgets and more weapons for that particular thing. What it means is it rewards you for the way you like to play, which makes sense. We've only had limited sessions with the online so far, but we got to play with accessories like grips for stability, tactical torches, a variety of scopes, and my personal favorite, the secondary shotguns. And the smoke. The smoke is so good in this. Not only is it incredibly useful for holding down points and busting into an area, I think my personal highlight of the whole experience with this game was dropping down smoke on someone, then running in and just taking people out and then busting away.
I wasn't a big fan of the tactical torch effect though, Barjo. I mean, even though it does give away your opponent's position, the blinding light just makes it impossible to return accurate fire.
Right there. Just an impossible torch.
And when you're using it, you might be blinding your teammates, so I'm not sure how useful it's going to be.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be there to grief people. It's fun flicking it on and off though. Kind of reminds me of CS. The knifing has been dramatically nerfed though, and at first I was really annoyed by this, but then I came to understand why. So to take someone out with a knife in one hit now, you have to come up behind them, and that's the way you get dog tags. But if you go a front-on assault, you're going to need to do 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 swipes. I think it's well balanced because it means people aren't just going to cheese you up front and then knife you a couple of times, and it keeps it focused on the shooting.
I like the way they've reorganized the classes too. The Assault and Medic class has now been combined into one, but you can swap out your Medic pack for a gadget later, so you can still be an Assault Rifle focused class, with the benefit of reviving your friends if you want. And you can choose if you want to be revived or just respawn now, which is great.
Yeah, it was always so frustrating in Bad Company 2 when you're getting revived in the line of fire over and over and over again when you just wanted to get out of there. Another subtle improvement is the button to pick up a gun is no longer the same button to activate an MCOM station.
I like that you can spawn directly into a jet on the tarmac, so it eliminates that waiting for a plane situation that was in the previous games. Another big change is the introduction of Suppression Fire. Getting shot at means your vision will blur and your accuracy will lessen until you move to a safer spot.
Dead.
And it means you have to move, which keeps the action frantic.
And I'm so glad that prone is back. It's perfectly balanced with the animation time and re-equip speed. It just feels natural to dive into cover under a truck or drop to the ground when someone has spotted you.
The movement system lets you strafe while running too, and combined with the mantling animation, it makes action feel fluid and fast-paced. There's just so many spectacular moments.
Yeah, you know, even 200 hours into Bad Company 2, I was still seeing those jaw-dropping moments, and I think there'll be even more here with all these extra vehicles.
A bunch of short but fun two-player co-op campaigns as well. They're a good mix, and you really need to use voice chat and teamwork to get through them.
Okay, you got left, I got right on 3. 1, 2, 3.
It's a great addition, and they unlock stuff for multiplayer too, so it's worth doing just for that.
Before we get onto the single player, we should just mention Battlelog, which is a browser-based social networking tool, which is also the only way you can launch the game. At first it feels very weird and different, and it is extremely new, but I think it's also very forward-thinking. And I like the way that when you plus like on someone's comment, it does a plus hooah.
Yeah, it's nice and snappy to use, and the voice chat just works perfectly. The party system and in-game squad management was a little glitchy for us pre-launch, but that's bound to get ironed out over time. And we were having to test the game on foreign servers, but surprisingly the game handled our higher pings really well.
Now, onto single player. A terrorist plot is unfolding, and you mostly play a soldier under interrogation who divulges information, which in turn becomes a variety of missions.
Try to focus on the question, please. I was still shaky as hell when I pulled myself out, so I don't know.
Sound familiar, Hex?
Yeah, it's an almost identical storytelling technique that was used in Call of Duty Black Ops, and that similarity is a little bit odd, but, you know, nevertheless, I think they've told the story better here.
Yeah, it's a bit strange, isn't it? I'm not sure if it's intentional or coincidental, though.
Bit sus. The missions range from glorious desert tank combat to tight corridor shootouts, sniper and stealth missions, and even a bit of villa infiltration where you can go for a swim. And there's lots more.
What I like most about this single-player campaign is the way they try and mask the enemy from you by using things like gas or particle effects, or red laser sights in your eyes, or just plain darkness and torches. It means that you're constantly shooting at where you think the enemy is and trying to find them while they're hiding in cover or in the jungle, and it's very clever and it works.
If you rush forward, it usually means a quick death, and even on normal difficulty, the game provides a good challenge for shooter veterans. I enjoyed this, Barjo, but I think I enjoyed the Call of Duty campaigns and their big moments just a little bit more.
You know, I think I like this better, and I think it's because it doesn't have those big moments. You know, you don't feel like James Bond. You feel like a man as part of a team, in a tough battle. There's less hand-holding here, and even though it's very heavily scripted, you still feel like things are changing and moving on the go.
I did find the enemy AI to be a little uninteresting, though. I mean, they do get behind cover in a firefight, but sometimes they take ages to react to you when you're really close.
Yeah, it's a little inconsistent, isn't it? I also found that sometimes when they were really far away from you, even if you were hiding, they would seem to know exactly where you are. And lastly, we should talk about the sound design, which is a big part of this game, and a big reason why it's so immersive. From rockets flying past your head, the snap echo of a sniper rifle, the grenade blasts. I've never heard sound this good in a game, and you just notice it all the time. And from the big explosions to even when you just get into a car and that muffling of the car sounds. It's amazing. Anyway, we should wrap this up. Final thoughts.
Well, this is a near perfect FPS when it comes to the multiplayer, isn't it? I mean, I never end up spending that much time with shooters online, but I can see and appreciate all the work that's gone into creating what is an incredibly robust and reliable online game. And props to DICE to really listening to their community as well. So I'm giving it 9.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I love this game. I love it. I just like how the single player highlights the brutality of war in a really mature and adult way, but I also just, that multiplayer, I'm gonna live there forever. So I'm giving this 10 out of 10 rubber chickens. And I know it's not double 10s, but I still brought my own 10 balloon.
Oh,
Just my own little
one 10 balloon.
So I'll just put him there.
So
We recently
small.
spoke to Lars Gustafsson, the creative director of DICE Studios, and he had this to say.
In the old days, when we started, it was very much gut feel. If we liked it in the studio, of course, the audience would love it. But nowadays, it's of course a mixture of experience and gut feel. But you do extensive testing nowadays. You're always in communication with the community. And then, of course, extensive telemetry tracking. For the open beta, we could clearly see that, that DICE gamers are lesser gamers than the community, since they ranked up so much faster. So we need to look at the progression curve on the scoring, since people were just racking up score as totally unexpected.
I'm in the jet!
I love the jets, and we've had planes there since the very first Battlefield. And I think after Battlefield 2, we ended up with some creative kind of stalemate, where it's kind of, they don't fly fast enough, what should we do with the planes this time around? But it seems like when we started to add the different components in Battlefield 3, it just felt so natural. And I had this religious epiphany the other day when we were sitting and playing Caspian Border, and you see this mayhem going on around you. And I can tell you how much I love the fact that you see really good dogfighting going. You don't even have to be in the planes, just the ambience it gives to the level when they are fighting up there. We were in the studio slightly sick and tired of all of our games where, especially me, I often used a light machine gun, and you lay down a rain of fire, and then someone pops up and shoots you in the face. And it's kind of, ooh, it's so frustrating. So we started looking at it and came to the conclusion that by triggering effects, sound, etc., when you fire just close enough to the enemy, you start reducing that player's combat efficiency. Not enough so that it becomes annoying, but enough to kind of raise your awareness level on the receiving end and really making you understand that it's time to move.
While Lars from DICE was here, we got him to sign this Good Game t-shirt, and we'd love to give it away to a lucky Good Game viewer. The size is large.
If you think you're worthy of wearing the markings of a DICE dev, you're just gonna have to convince us. Jump on the Facebook page or the Good Game forums to plead your case. The best post will win the shirt.
We've also signed it, so it diminishes the quality of it a little bit. Just a little bit.
Good game!
So did you guess the game for this week? It was the wacky karting adventure of Crash Team Racing, a Mario Kart-inspired game for PlayStation that was developed by Naughty Dog, the developer behind Uncharted 3: Drake's Deception.
And just a reminder, you may have noticed old bats up the back there. Well, we'll be announcing the winner of that giant Batman statue in our final episode for 2011 on November 29, so you need to get your entries in by November 14.
And there are a few guidelines and conditions, so make sure you check the website for details or your entry won't count.
Pretty spectacular showing of games this week, Badge. You'd think it would be hard to top, but next week we have the sandbox shenanigans of Saints Row 3.
I could do this all day.
Plus, Goose will give us a look at some new 3D graphics technology developed right here in Australia that promises an unlimited level of detail.
Unlimited?
Unlimited.
That sounds limitless. Well, until next week, gamers, Barjo out.
Hex out.
Oh, and just a reminder, if you'd like to play some Battlefield 3 with us on the PC Good Games server, you can search for it and see it there and play with us, and we'll be on it all week, Jets.